Hey guys, how's it going? Laserbeam here. Welcome to first impression of the Kuno Ichi in Black Desert. I'm your host. Have no idea what I'm doing here, and today's just kind of a first impression from just messing around. I haven't really put the class into practice yet. I'll be making a guide later when I'm more experienced with it, but so far I just wanted to get this out there because playing the Kuno, just like trying to move around and messing around with the skills a little bit, I feel like the cooldowns are really long on this class. I'm not really sure what to make of it. Ankle cutter is like 10 seconds long, crescent slash is 7 seconds, and shadow stomp is 6. The longest ones are really shadow explosion, which is at 16 seconds, and shadow clone is 13 seconds. It's very long for skills that I remember that you probably kind of constantly need to use. I find that this is going to be something really interesting. I am definitely hard re-rolling into this and away from the tamer after once. Obviously, everybody knows I'm chasing a stupid-ass compass, but once I get that, I'll be hard re-rolling into Kuno for sure, into Succession. It is a bit of a... I feel like I've given up like a lot of good things out of Awakening. Awakening had a lot of super armors and sustain, as well as the spin to win Beyblade meme. That was really powerful. And switching over to Succession, I feel like Kuno has more like capabilities as burst, but then again, cooldowns seems to be a big issue for me anyways, that a lot of these things are really long cooldowns. We're looking from a difference of like lunar dash used to be 4 seconds and a spin to win that's 8-second cooldown that's spun for about 1.7 seconds in animation, which really makes the skill a 6.3-second cooldown kind of thing. But you know, and then like it's got 2 useless skills, but you can still rotate all this with pre-awakening, whereas Succession, you don't have any of that. You just kind of bank off of like an expansion of your pre-awakening skills, so you kind of lose a lot of crazy things that you swap between the two when you go to Succession. But then again, I don't really know the class too well. All I know is that this list of Succession Lament of Silence tooltip is very long and large, and something to work with, I guess. But the main things I have in concern here is Ninjutsu Spirit there and Ninjutsu Soul. Both of these skills require Shadow Explosion and Shadow Clone, and you have to tag the enemy to get those buffs, and it takes forever to get those on. This is like 16-second cooldown, and this is 13-second cooldown. And I've noticed that when I use it off cooldown and I hit something with it, the buff doesn't come on, so that means I can only trigger this once every 13 or 16 seconds essentially. So when I use Shadow Explosion, I get nothing on my buff bar here. Whereas if I use a Shadow Clone, you'll notice that I now have this Ninjutsu Soul buff there. So, you know, you miss your attack and all of a sudden you're kind of screwed in options here. So in order for your Wheel of Wrath and Danse Macabre to do big damage, which says like you need to release Ghost, Soul, and Spirit by activating Prime Danse Macabre or Wheel of Wrath, like the huge damage there is Ninjutsu Release second hit damage 1214x12. Of course it's better than 1214x8, but that's like an extra chunk there. Same with Ninjutsu Release on this, additional hit damage is 1871x6, which is insane. So, you know, you can only do that once every 16 seconds because this is the slowest skill that you have, and you can't speed that up in any way. There's no way about that. And like, you know, there's a bunch of interesting effects here, like release Ghost with Kunai Succession Throw. It's just Kunai Throw. There's no skill that's actually called Kunai Succession Throw. You just pick up Absolute and it says Succession Throw on it. Do I still have my reset? Oh yeah, for 43. Yeah, so like you have to take it all the way to Absolute to get that. And once you have that, when you have the buff and you hit something with it, it causes CC. I obviously hadn't tried this here. I tried it in Battle Arena. I know it causes stiffness when you just like basic throw with the buff on, which you get from Shadow Stomp, and that's kind of like my main concerns. Mobility is sort of increased and decreased. I don't know of a real good way to put this. When you have your E buff on, your Succession buff on, like Ghost Step goes really far. Like it doubles in distance, so it's kind of nice. Like the Ghost Step doubles in distance, but then at the same time I'm also like, where the heck is like my movement after all that? Like you can get around very fast when that buff is on, but I can't really move beyond that once the buff runs out. the distance seems like it's kind of less with Succession compared to Awakening. But then again, Awakening is like I can do it far more often with the Lunar Dash, which is 4-second cooldown. It's for every 4 seconds, whereas like I can only do like a burst of movement every 10 seconds or so, and then I'd have to figure out like what else to do, because I can't burst beyond that as frequent as Awakening. So like there's a bit of a higher reach with distance, but then you have to wait longer. Whereas like Awakening, I feel like I get more distance over time in terms of mobility. And I don't like wasting like ankle cutter for movement, especially like if I were to imagine myself in a PvP situation or whatever. Using this to basically move feels like a huge waste to put it on cooldown. Its damage is not reduced though, but then the CC is lost. So really it depends on the user. I'm not exactly sure. I prefer that to be a bit shorter cooldown. This is already buffed as well from the global labs. I did some research prior to making this because I thought there was more buffs coming because this seems kind of slow. But then again, maybe after some practice and you know, some more experience into this, I'll have a good idea. But so far that's what it feels like on a first impression, and just by messing around a little bit. Foxclaw feels pretty slow for what it was compared to before. I thought the animation would play all the way through, but then if you cancel it with Ghost Step, nothing happens. That's a little disappointing. So Flash Slash I thought was going to be really slow, but it actually turns out to be quite fast when you cancel it with a smoke screen. So I kind of don't really use smoke screen for anything else other than that now. And I'm not sure what else to tell you. Dan's Macabre is really nice. This is definitely much faster than the Awakening version of this, and I assume this would be really strong in just like just spiking somebody or a mob. Wheel of Wrath, gotta get used to the input here. It's a little strange, but it's also really fast. Also spammable and low cooldown. So it's one of the things that probably will be used quite a lot. It's just you know, just the rotation of skills is based on this cooldown cycle here. I used to be able to pull out 19 skills in rotation in Awakening, but Succession I feel like I'm going to be able to pull out everything, and then afterwards I'm just going to be standing around for like maybe 2 to 3 seconds wondering what the hell to do, because everything's on cooldown other than using spammable skills. And I like the fact that Tendon Cutter has an extra last hit here. It's super armor all the way through, including that last hit. If you cancel the Tendon Cutter early, that last hit is still super armor. And the interesting thing about that is that it locks onto targets. So well, you can just blink over to something, which is quite nice. Obviously that'll be quite annoying against like anything, because you can just blink over to a target and hopefully cause floating on that hit. If not, then you still have another one. And yeah, in remastered mode, I gotta say, Ankle Cutter looks insane. I'm gonna have way too much fun with this because this is like a freaking laser whip. So I play classes for aesthetics. I don't care about power scale too much. I do mind cooldowns though, because cooldowns does slow things down. But that's a laser whip. Look at this. It's just a beam. Holy, it's so bright. And also, Shadow Clone is no longer a backflip. It's kind of a ground smash thing. And should definitely get used to using Prime Shackles, because this thing hits way hard. Prime Shackles is 1774x5, 100% crit with a minus 50% movement speed. This thing is just bonkers. Also, I've taken Fatal Blow and Kunai Stab. I don't have enough skill points, so I just need a few more. Definitely I feel like you should have enough skill points by about 1970-ish skill points, because I just need to get the paralysis tree here and kunai stab. But we'll figure this out in a bit in the next video. Thanks so much for tuning in, and hopefully I'll see you in the guide when it comes out, but I'm gonna need to mess around with this and learn a bit more about it. Alright, thanks so much and see you later. Peace.